Good morning. Turn my mic back on. Good morning. Welcome to the March 5th business meeting. And with that, I'd ask the County Administrator, Gary Schmidt, to please take the roll.
Yes, thank you, Chair. First, our staff support today, Mary Rathke, Clerk to the Board, Stephen Madcore, County Counsel. Commissioners Schrader and Fisher are representing Clackamas County at the National Association of Counties Conference, so they are not here today. But with that, our roll, Commissioner Humberston.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Chair Bernard.
Here. Please join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, first up, we have what, Gary?
We have a special presentation that is not on the agenda, but it is to provide to you, commissioners and the public, an update on the coronavirus. And I'll ask our Disaster Management Director, Nancy Bush, to please come forward.
I wanted to thank you for your efforts over the weekend and so far every day since Thursday?
Since Friday.
Since Friday, and the staff that is working over at the EOC, appreciate their work and appreciate somebody's helping them eat. Gary, I know, brought stuff and anyway, great work. I've been there 3 times to see how you guys are doing, and obviously you're doing great work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. So just for the audience, to backtrack just a little bit, we did get on Friday late in the day a presumptive here in Clackamas County, or that was connected with Clackamas County, which was with the high school, or I'm sorry, the elementary school in Lake Oswego. And at that time, we did kick everything up on Friday evening. We opened the EOC that night. We did have some skeleton crew, but we were open all through the weekend, well into this week, and we are planning on being open for sure over this weekend too, depending on what's going on. So some of the information I do want to share today, I have some total numbers here from Oregon and some of the tests that have been run. So we have 3 positives in Oregon testing. One of those is now CDC confirmed. We're still waiting for the other 2 to be confirmed by CDC. 2 of those cases are here in our region, which are connected to the one at the Lake Oswego elementary school. And one of them is in Umatilla. We've had 45 negative tests come back. So as we do contact track tracing, and that is a statewide number, so we don't know where those tests are. But we have 45 that have come back negative, which is really good news for us. And there are 13 tests at this time that are pending. It usually takes around 24 to 36 hours to get a test back. So those 13, we probably will hear quite a bit on those 13 today. So that's kind of where we are right now. We do have a lot going on in the EOC. Most of, obviously, our public health staff is being very, very stretched. A lot of this is on them. We have a lot of HIPAA rules that we have to live by as well. So that means only that staff can take care of some of the things that are being taken care of now. We have provided a lot of support for public information, which is also probably the second largest group that's being hit. We're getting a lot of requests, whether if it's from the media. We have a lot of requests to do some speaking at different events and those types of things. We're being very, very particular about where we go and what we're doing because our staff is so thin we can't just pull people out 4 or 5 times today to do some speaking. We did find out today that Oregon Health Authority is going to be doing a media conference every day at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. That is going to help us out because we're going to be able to put a lot of the traffic and a lot of the individual requests that are coming in from the media and telling them to go there for that particular event. So that is going to take some pressure off over the next few days. We are getting a lot of questions that is asking about closing schools, malls, and other areas, and we just want to reiterate that that is not being suggested or recommended at this time. And that, we continue to talk about, washing your hands, cough into your sleeve, sneeze into your sleeve, and just to be vigilant about, services and those types of things. We're sending a lot of information out for businesses healthcare providers, fire, law, anyone that have a lot of contact with the public as well. So that is basically my report for today. If you have questions, please let me know.
So when you say the CDC has to kind of finalize the test, so you give a test and it comes back negative or positive, the CDC has to view.
They have to confirm.
Okay. And
They
that's
only
why
confirm positives
Okay, so that's why there's some delay on, okay.
on that confirmation. And the test that we have here at the state, that the state does, is very reliable, but we still have to have CDC to confirm.
Is there a website that folks could look at?
Yes, you can go to the Oregon Health Authority website, which is oha.gov, and there's links there. They have a lot of really, really good information there. We've also been having people go to the state of Washington's site. There is a lot of information there. So I'm sorry I don't know the site, but the state of Washington Public Health site, you can Google that. As you know, the state of Washington at this time has been the hardest hit. I think they have 9 deaths now.
10.
It's been happening very quickly, and I did look that up this morning, but I think they have 9 deaths now, and they still have several people under investigation, or, people that they're watching and that kind of, and doing some testing on too. So those 2 sites are the sites we are having some people go to.
We also have a Facebook page at, how do you find our Facebook page?
So our Facebook page, so we want you to go to the county's Facebook page initially. We are putting all of our stuff there and on Twitter as well. So if you search Clackamas County, our Facebook page has the little blue check mark by it. The disaster management has a page as well that we're also putting things out on, and that is Clackamas County DM, as in disaster management, and we also have the little blue check mark that indicates that that is the correct site.
All right, Paul?
Yeah, I just want to, just reflecting back on our conversation on Monday when we did our declaration, and then taking into account the email we saw this morning about the county cannot declare a medical state of emergency. It's the governor that does that. So my question with that in mind is that the boxes, alphabetical boxes that we checked, with that in mind, can we actually employ all of those absent a declaration by the governor?
That is a great question. I actually talked to my county council about that this morning. And Andrew Naylor let us know that, yes, we can. Because we still have, and of course I have county council here, but we still have the ability to have our own local public health emergency powers.
Okay.
So, and the other thing, before I turn it over to Stephen, we also have in 401, which is the chapter that I work from in the disaster management, it is actually listed in there, we can do public health. Now, there's certain things, I think in 433, that only can be done through the governor declaring a public health disaster. So we've been instructed, if there's something that is outside of the county powers, or we think that we need to make sure we go through county council. But we do still have the ability to do those things.
Right, I do know that, if I'm not mistaken, we have to do it as the Board of Health, right? The Clackamas County Board of Health.
Board of County Commissioners.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Because it would be under 401.
Right, and then the last question I have was along the, I just want, not a question, it's a statement. I know that a lot of people, there's probably more people thinking that we ought to be doing more currently than we are, and because they're worried.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's that sense, and I know we've been, informed by, yourself and other staff of what's practical and what's doable and what's not, and what rises to the level of that higher state of emergency, which we can't really justify taking at this time. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I think I mentioned earlier to you that in public health, there's not a bright line. A little bit about my background. I was in public health for 20 years before I did this. And yeah, there's not a bright line. We know it's one of those things when we're tipped over, we'll see it. And we would not go to that point either without Oregon Health Authority being on board with those types of things too.
Thank you.
Ken?
Yeah, just a procedural question. If we were to increase
or check off additional boxes under the current declaration that we've made. Do we need to reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners to do that, or can that be done by administration?
You would need to reconvene as the board and decide and deliberate which criteria you wanted to employ.
Procedurally, I want to make sure that I knew what it was and that we keep ourselves available in case that is necessary.
There is a provision within county code to allow the chair to do something unilaterally, and he or she would need to have that ratified by the remainders of the board, a majority of the board, at the earliest possible opportunity.
So if for some reason we didn't have a majority of the board available for a meeting, the chair could in fact make a decision and take care of business.
That is correct.
Thank you.
And in subsequent work, you could delegate it to the county administrator specifically if you chose to do so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
Mary, I'm going to read this statement now. It seems appropriate. It's a commissioner statement on discrimination and coronavirus. We are aware of reports that some in our community have been experiencing marginalization or in some cases discrimination in their effort to seek medical attention in connection with the coronavirus. This is unacceptable and contrary to our values. Fear of an outbreak has fueled inappropriate behavior in the weeks since the first case of coronavirus. It's important to distinguish legitimate and appropriate medical precautions from racist and discriminatory behavior. Clackamas County values racial equity and social justice. Our responsibility is to provide a welcoming, safe, and inclusive environment where every community member can safely access services and care. This is especially important at a time when fears about a virus can easily foster suspicion without regard of facts. Please, especially at this time, remember to treat everyone in our community with respect and recognize the dignity and humanity of everyone. Thank you. With that, we're going to move on to citizen communication, and we have Al, come on up.
Hi, my name is, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Al Knotts. I live outside of Molalla at 30200 South Bernards Road. I'm here concerning the hemp processing problem in Molalla. I was here 4 years ago telling you about neighbors growing hemp next to my other neighbors, 30 feet away from their front door. She was on oxygen The crop was within 30 feet of her bedroom. It turned out to be 0.66 THC level, which qualifies it for marijuana with no fencing or anything. 2 years later, along the airport outside Molalla, people were testifying that they could not live outside their houses. They got congestion, and one lady ended up in the ER. Now, on the other side of Safeway, there is a hemp processing plant a block away from a grade school and residents in the area. The grade school kids are putting their shirts up over their heads to get into the grade school, and it's getting into the front of the grade school too. The smell is so bad. 2 weeks ago, the city of Molalla had a meeting scheduled in front of a judge. Almost 100 people showed up. 50 people were supposed to testify. They postponed the meeting, and now it's scheduled for March 17th, 6 p.m. at the Molalla High School in the library. I'd like to personally invite the commissioners to attend and support the Molalla community. Even if you don't speak, your presence as an elected official is very important. Maybe you can have a representative speak about how this is affecting our county. This problem, you're probably wondering, gee, this hemp processing facility is not affecting me. Well, I have 20 acres next to me. I have 5 acres next to me, and they could put one of these processing plants right next to my property line and operate it 24 hours a day. No filtration problem, no filtration, nothing. So they can do that to anybody in the county. And also, this is not just a Clackamas County situation. It's a statewide situation. It's a United States wide. In fact, in California, one of the counties down there is considering putting a 2-mile radius within 10 residents. The county and the city are, because it's been so bad. So I'd like to have your support. I know the county is tied up because the state is controlling this, so.
Well, I appreciate that, and we'll get that on our calendars. I'd love to attend. It is an issue that I've heard a lot of people talk about. I actually live in a rural county. My neighbor has 13 acres. He could do the same thing.
Oh, yeah, he could do the same thing.
I would not appreciate that at all.
Yeah, you couldn't even you couldn't live outside your house, and they could do it 24 hours a day.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, we'll try to get to your meeting. I appreciate you letting us know.
And also, I know Mrs. Schrader's at a conference of the, of all the counties, and if you would kind of tell her about this situation, and maybe she could discuss that with them down there.
It's a good idea, and even though the legislature isn't really they're in session, but they're not there. Maybe next year it's something we can consider taking up. But right now,
yeah, I'd like the county to maybe put some some kind of pressure on them. The county must have something they can do about this situation, because I can't do anything about it. I've tried the best I can, and the city of Mole is going to maybe have them require them to put filtration system on it, which the marijuana industry's done, and it hasn't proved.
Of course, they're growing it. It stinks when they're growing it too.
Well, they're growing it on the airport over there. Yeah. It's getting to Safeway. On the other side of Safeway is the production plant, and on the other side of Big Meadow, they're growing it too. Yeah. So, the city of Mole is just they're smelling like marijuana. Yeah. It's a marijuana plant, is what it is.
Yeah.
So.
Paul?
Yeah, well, be remiss if I didn't say this, just for people that were maybe watching this in the future or at home currently. When this came to the board, my argument at the time was, well, look how that's working out for other areas in the country, like Colorado, where we heard, and Humboldt County, where we heard similar cases of complaints and issues with this. So, everyone pointed back to the measure. Well, the voters voted for it. Well, the state divided into 4 categories: retail, selling it, growing it, forget what do you call that?
Processing?
No, that's not processing. Processing is treatment. It was, anyhow.
Extraction?
Not extraction. So they had one category is warehousing, one was processing, the other one was the ability to grow it, right? And then the other one was retail. I think most people anticipated that it'd be for sale and available for people to buy. But I don't think that we actually collectively, I was pointing it out at the time, but point of the matter, the impacts of growing and really the complaints, the people that come up here, when they come up here, it's really around the growing. It's not necessarily about the processing as much or the retail as much. It's really about the impacts of the smell, people's allergic reactions, quality of life, and so on. So with that said, we had a choice of opting out on any one of those 4 categories, and or putting greater restrictions on any one of those 4 categories. And, we did a little, but we didn't do enough. And so it's just one of those points in times where it's fair to mention that, we could have, and actually, as I understand, we still could, but we can't, once someone's established, you can't take away their ability to do it, because now we've kind of opened the door, Pandora's box is out, we want to limit those impacts. We could always put a ballot measure out there to the citizens, say, do you want to opt out of any future grows, and keep the intent of the law, which I think was more on the retail side of being able to purchase it.
Yeah, the only problem is most of the voters are in the city, and we have to put up with it out here in the country.
That's right.
Yeah, well,
What
they
I want
do
to
it.
add is that this is hemp. Hemp is a crop.
Crop,
And
yeah.
even if we didn't allow marijuana, hemp could be grown in Clackamas County without restriction because
Wow.
it's the hemp. Marijuana is a problem, I don't disagree, but hemp is and so is marijuana, a
Agricultural
crop.
crop.
I think the mistake that the state made, in my opinion, is they should have never made it a crop.
Well, it was an intentional mistake. Let's say that. That's the way my representative has described it.
Ken?
It was, yeah. Well, I could go further on that, but
I just had a quick question. What's the time of the meeting at Molalla?
6 o'clock is the meeting.
Thank you.
They said that if you wanted to speak, you could be there at 5:30 and sign up. But, just your presence there at the meeting would be phenomenal, to support the people of Molalla. You got 100 people in Molalla, you got most of the city. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. But anyways, they're putting a brand-new development right over on the other side of there, and stuff. It's a mess.
We get the same complaints from spread manure, but the hemp
Manure.
smells longer, but I have friends who
Well, yeah.
buy
yeah.
buy a farm, and then they complain about the smell of the manure. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah,
very-
my dad used to have 10 bulls and stuff. I lived on a farm, Yeah, I never known any manure that ended up somebody in the hospital.
Yeah, that's very true, very true.
So anyway, well, thanks for listening to me, and I would really love to have your support on this thing to, help out any way you can.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is a consent agenda, and first off, we poll item E1 for further staff review, and that's approval of a strategic investment zone, RSIZ, standardized agreement with Coho Distribution LLC, doing business as Columbia Distributing. There is some concerns have been expressed by some Canby folks, and we're going to take, sorry, I cannot, I've got this on airplane, and it still rings, so I got to figure this out. They'll probably call me right back. Anyway, so we're going to pull that for now, and we're going to talk about it next week and hear from Canby what the issue is, but for now, we're pulling it, and with that, I'd ask the clerk to please read the consent agenda by title.
Okay, today's consent agenda. Under Health, Housing, and Human Services, approval of 6 revenue grant agreements from Oregon Department of Education Youth Development Division to fund PreventNet community school sites in Clackamas County. Approval of a personal services contract with Youth ERA for a drop-in center and peer support for youth, young adults in transition. And approval of a personal services contract with Youth ERA for youth and young adult peer support services. Under the Department of Transportation and Development, approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County and the City of Oregon City for traffic signal maintenance and transportation engineering services. Under elected officials, a request by the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office to approve amendments to the agreement with the Oregon State Marine Board for marine patrol services, and approval of a participant intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County Sheriff's Office and the City of Portland for the Regional Justice Information Network Program Regional Partners Agency. Under Community Corrections, approval of a grant agreement 20-2024 between Clackamas County Community Corrections and subrecipient Oregon Health and Science University for system-level diversion strategies. The next one was the one that was removed. Under Public and Government Affairs, a board order for an extension of the cable television franchise with Comcast of Oregon, Comcast of Tualatin Valley, and Comcast of Illinois, Ohio, and Oregon, and a board order for an extension of the cable television franchise with Canby Telephone Association, doing business as Canby Telecom Direct Link. That concludes today's consent agenda.
Do any commissioners wish to pull an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second?
Moved and second that we approve the consent agenda as amended. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Gary, is the county administrator ready to give us an update?
I have a great update for you today, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Yes. As always, I'd like to share good news of the fine work of our staff here at Clackamas County. I'd like to share with you our Sustainability and Solid Waste Program provides a way for organizations and groups to become certified leaders in sustainability. To do so, recipients must prove they have taken concrete steps like minimizing waste and conserving energy and water. I'm happy to report that every single division within our Department of Transportation and Development has now been certified at the highest Leaders in Sustainability level, which is gold. Every division in Transportation and Development. Achieving this certification requires smart policies, leadership support, and employee follow-through. Transportation and Development is the second county department to be certified overall, the first being Water Environment Services, which received a silver certification in 2017, and the director is sitting in the audience today. The staff of Sustainability and Solid Waste looks forward to supporting any county department that wishes to achieve this certification. So I guess I'm challenging our colleagues here at Clackamas County to do this as well. County administration should do this, Mary, so we'll work on that in our own county department. So thank you to the staff of Department of Transportation and Development. And then quickly, I'd like to acknowledge as well our staff who have been working in the Emergency Operations Center for the coronavirus efforts here in Clackamas County, who've done a phenomenal job. This is beyond their day-to-day work. They are doing their day-to-day work and supporting the Emergency Operations Center. They have been working all weekend long, into the evening, all day long, for almost a week now. And in particular, staff from disaster management, our public health staff in Health, Housing, and Human Services, Public and Government Affairs, Finance, and the Sheriff's Office in particular. Those departments have been taking the lead, with every department contributing in their own way. So I thank our amazing staff for all that they have done in efforts to serve our public. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Commissioner Communications, Paul?
Yeah. Normally, I kind of usually come up here and tell folks what's going on that concerns me, and sometimes that's not always the best news in the world, and I recognize that. So I want to try to end today on a positive note, but I do want to just express one concern I have, and I think it's a role for us going into this election year, that we tend to present things in a way to convince or sell the citizens of a particular thing that we're working on or a belief that we're working on. Some people use the word sugarcoating things, or some people use the words of, or maybe they truly think that, what they're saying is accurate. But I think we got a responsibility to be as accurate and truthful with our citizens as we can, whether we're talking about the budget situation or we're talking about a measure on the ballot for housing and what it can do or what it may do, or whether it's about transportation, what it can do or won't do. But when it comes to people actually paying for that or their tax dollars, I think we actually have a responsibility not to sugarcoat and actually make sure we get as right as possible. I'm not going to tackle each of those three categories, but I think right now those are the ones that are on the top of my mind that kind of give me a little bit of pause when we are out there in the public or sitting here at the dais talking about those things, that we actually think real hard about being as accurate as we can, because if we're not accurate, not only are the citizens watching this, but our staff and other organizations watching it. So I think if we're going to make the efforts to solve these problems that we've got to be accurate as possible. But I do want to just And on a positive note, and I was, yesterday we met with a group of folks, myself and Emily, our staff, and a couple other staff met with a group of people from Deschutes County who came here to look at the Veterans Village and talk about how we really got that across the finish line. And I spent about 4 hours with those folks yesterday. We started here, we went to and looked at the Veterans Village, and basically in doing so almost kind of relived the whole process. And I think we take things for granted, our successes sometimes for granted, and the hard work that everyone did and all the heavy lift that a number of our departments and our staff did. I just want to take this time out to recognize that it was one shining example of the great work and collaboration and teamwork at the county that we managed to do what we did. I think the comments from the people that came from Deschutes County was not only they hear that it was a great success, but they were actually blown away on how what they saw and how they heard from the staff at the village and how it was working. I was just taken aback somewhat with how they responded to what we've done, and just to recognize the good work of, and it cost, it took a lot. I mean, it took a lot of time, and you know, sometimes you leave work and you go home, and whether you're a county commissioner or you're a staff person, and you're still carrying the load and the impacts of what happened during that day. So hats off to all our staff, in particular, you know, Emily Klepper, who did a fantastic job, our staff in DTD, Vahid Brown, who is always working, whether it's in Clackamas County or elsewhere, he's always on the scene. The hard work my colleagues did as well on the commission, the administrator, Administrator Krupp at the time, who helped carry that through, and our department heads for having all those meetings and trying to get things done. But you know, the reason why we did it, and we have to always go back to that. The why was the veterans that we're serving, that are homeless, and if you had a member of your family that was homeless, you would be quite passionate about a project like this and seeing people get into a better place, into permanent housing, which we've done. We've actually, from off the streets into a transition shelter into permanent housing is a very important thing, and we've actually managed to do that quite well. So it was great to see the new pods come up yesterday that we that planted there. They got power wired to them yesterday, the newest ones, and they're making the final arrangements. Some are already moved into, and some are getting prepped for that. So kudos to all, and that's all I have for today.
Great.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mary. Up on the screen, we don't often have a North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board of Directors meeting. We haven't, so I think it was last year we had the last one. So I'll show this for the screen, and maybe it'll come up on the screen. We are having a meeting on Monday, March 16th, 2 Mondays from now at 6 p.m. at the Old Concord School property. At 3811 Southeast Concord Road. I was hoping that the word would get out a little bit sooner, so we're going to try to make up for that. As you all know, we meet here at 10 o'clock every morning, most every Thursday morning, and we're always here. So this is kind of unique because we just haven't had the number of meetings, and we got some I think some hefty issues to dialogue about. We need as much public who live in the Parks District to attend the meeting if possible. So that's how I'll end today. Thank you.
Ken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would echo some of Commissioner Savis's comments regarding the Veterans Village. It is something that gets brought to my attention every time I go to a community meeting. People really do appreciate what we have accomplished there. And I don't think I've ever heard a criticism of it in any way. The only thing I've ever heard beyond it is that they'd like to see that kind of process expanded for other populations besides just veterans. And frankly, I think that's a good idea when and if we can afford it. And obviously, finances is a critical issue, but the model works, and it's helped people. And there are others out there that need that help. And most importantly, we demonstrated that we can do it right, and do it safely for the community. And we had not done that before, and I think the community has every right to expect us to show that we can do it right before you expand something like that. And I think we've demonstrated that, in fact, it can be done correctly. Moving on from there, I too want to echo the work of our folks at EOC. I stopped by to see how they were doing, and I was particularly impressed with, in spite of the fact that I was there and other people came in and Commissioner Bernard came in, the people that were actually monitoring computers and on the phones and whatnot like that just stayed totally focused on what they were doing. There wasn't a bunch of playing around. They were serious. They were focused on the work and making sure that what we're going to need going forward is going to be efficient and effective and available. Moving on, we all attended the city's dinner in Estacada. As people probably know, we do a city's dinner about once a month to help build relationships with our cities. Trying to keep in mind that the population of our cities is every much our constituents as the population of the unincorporated areas. Commissioner Bernard and I attended the Hoodland Women's Club crab feed and had an opportunity to talk with folks there and let them know about some of the things that we're doing and also support the Hoodland Women's Club's efforts for their Parks District. I had some fun and drug a few bucks out of Commissioner Bernard's pocket at the Springwater Grange Pie Auction, and we raised almost $3,000 in scholarship money for students in the Springwater area for scholarships when they go to college. Dropped by the Agritourism Summit, and then last night my wife and I attended the Rivers of Life event for a habitat restoration program that Rivers of Life put on in conjunction with Water Environmental Services, who provided $20,000 in grant money for the project. And they've taken 6 acres of land and cleaned it up and done habitat restoration, tree plantings, stream cleanup, et cetera. Did a beautiful job. And they are to be commended for the work that they did. I commented last night about the young people that were there that did all the work, that if anybody's worried about the next generation, you don't need to be. These young folks were hardworking and committed to the work and did a wonderful job on this project. And the last is a little on a personal note. I was honored to receive a Quilt of Valor for my service in the Marine Corps many years ago. I had tried repeatedly to say no, but the lady who runs the Quilt of Valor program 5 years ago started on me and finally broke me down, and I did attend, and 6 of us actually received quilts for service, and I was very honored and very appreciative of it. And that's all I have, except for the dog. And here we go. So who is that doggie in the window? It's Aspen. She is a 10-year-old Siberian Husky who finds herself looking for a new place to call home. She's a nice girl who loves to go on walks, takes care of her belongings, and loves getting attention from people. She is looking for someone who will continue to take her on the walks that she loves, be her best friend, and take care of her for the rest of her life. Are you up for the job? Don't let age fool you. Even though she is over all of those young dog shenanigans, she still has a zest for life, and she can't wait to share that with you. For more information about Aspen or any other adoptable dogs, please contact Dog Services at 503-655-8628 or www.clackamas.us/dogs. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. First off, last night I attended the T2020 task force. That is we're looking at a measure in November to fund transportation. Still don't know what they're thinking about, how they're going to fund it, but still don't know that. We had a great discussion. I think there was unanimous concern about any project we do. We need to be ahead of the game in preserving affordable housing and reducing gentrification ahead of investments. I heard that from everybody. I brought it up, and everyone agreed that we need to do that first, and it's very important to do that. And then we talked about programs. You know, just about every program they had was great. I mean, safe routes to school, connecting bike ped. They're all great programs, but there's only a certain amount of money. And, well, we don't know that. We hope there's a certain amount of money to address all these. There were lots of youth there talking about free bus passes for people under 18. Right now, there are some schools don't have to have school buses, evidently, in the Portland metro area, so they get a discount card anyway for riding the regular TriMet buses. And then there are some other opportunities. The one concern they had was proof of income. Well, there are a lot of homeless people who don't have proof of income, don't file tax returns, so there was some concern about that requirement. But anyway, we're looking at that. A lot of great programs, a lot of support. And then housing in Clackamas County, I think a lot about what you talked about and you talked about. You know, the next stage in providing housing is the development of our affordable housing stock. And then there's also the fact that we're opening up our list. I read that. It's been a long time. The list is huge. I don't know what that means exactly, but I would say people who are on the list who still need help, they're going to work down that list as far as we can, and that's probably not very far. So there are lots of opportunity in the future. Let me see. Well, with that, it's a beautiful sunny day, and I have a whole bunch of unicorns to get together on my ranch. So thank you very much, and we're adjourned.